Welcome to the Global Challenges Foundation interview series. I'm Waldemar Ingdahl, Communication Officer at the Foundation. Today, we are talking with the representatives of the Earth Commission. And with me are Joyeeta Gupta, the co-chair of the Earth Commission, and Diana Liverman, member of the Earth Commission. This is just a quick introduction because we want to get to the Earth Commission's interesting goals and activities. Please tell us a bit more about the Earth Commission.
So I'm going to focus only on the Earth Commission. The Earth Commission tries to understand whether we can identify safe and just Earth system boundaries for our planet. So what we're trying to do is to look at those specific areas in which the system of the Earth, whether it is at local, regional, or global level, is going to be affected. And we're going to try to come up with some suggestions about what would be safe. And we might qualify that with what is perhaps seen as just boundaries for the Earth. So that is part of the story. But we do know that if we actually want to meet the needs of people worldwide, this might lead us to perhaps crossing planetary or Earth system boundaries. And so, one of the storylines that we are trying to convey through this project is that it is possible to meet everybody's needs within a safe and just boundary, but it does require global just transformation. And that would include development of technologies, but it would also include redistribution of resources. So that's one part of the story. And then we are going to try to identify what are possible levers and actors of transformation. And we are also going to look into the methods for translating certain targets at global level to the various actors and sectors that may have to undertake these activities. And then we will try to communicate with all other members of our family. So we have a larger family out there from the Global Commons Alliance, SBTN, and other groups. And we're going to try and communicate our knowledge through these actors to create a wider impact of our research work.
So just to add a little bit to Joyeeta's description, one of the things that's important is that the Earth Commission we're not just looking at the risk of climate change, we're also looking at biodiversity loss, at water problems, at pollution problems. And so it's enormously challenging because we're trying to figure out how to stay within these multiple biophysical boundaries, but also to make sure that in the process, we give the poorest of the world access to resources. And that can increase the pressure on the planet if you don't make these sort of substantial transformations that Joyeeta talked about. And the Earth Commission has 5 working groups. 3 of them are focused on different biophysical domains like climate and biodiversity. There's one that is concerned with communication and translation, but the group that I have the privilege to co-chair with Joyeeta, we're very much focused on what I think of as the human dimensions of the Earth system. So we're looking at how humans are changing the system, how they're being affected, but then very importantly, what are the responses that make the system safe, but are also carried out in a way that promotes justice.
Those are really complex challenges. What opportunities do you see with your collaboration with the Global Challenges Foundation?
So the Global Challenges Foundation is working amongst many other issues on health issues. It's working on climate change, catastrophic risks. So what we feel is that a lot of the substantive work that they are doing is very much in line with what we are doing. So we have an opportunity to learn from them. On the other hand, because we are working so much from a justice perspective and we are trying to elaborate on the various dimensions of justice, we feel that we can contribute significantly to their work. And finally, I think that both of us are very much interested in the process of transformation. And I think that in our storyline, we will be looking at just targets and just means, so just ends and just means. So we will be looking at both targets and transformation processes. And I think in that sense, we will actually complement much of the work they do, but also learn from them.
And then just one other thing that I think characterizes what we're trying to do, the Global Challenges Foundation has an interest in this, is we're looking both at what we think of as the direct drivers and solutions. So things like the need for an energy transition to deal with the environmental impacts of energy. But we're also looking at the deeper drivers, the more fundamental changes that we need in values and inequality and technology and demography, because we're really not going to succeed if we only deal with the more superficial drivers. We really have to think about how do we change these much deeper causes of human impact on the system.
Please name 3 benefits you hope will be possible through the collaboration with the Global Challenges Foundation.
Well, I think one of the most important benefits is the mutual learning process that is going to be unleashed. I mean, we're already starting with that mutual learning process because we participate in their meetings and they participate in ours. And so I think that mutual learning is going to be one of the key elements. A second part, I think, is going to be also that we might disagree with each other. There are areas in which I sense that there is a different perspective within the Global Challenges Foundation, and perhaps there's a different perspective within at least the justice component or working group 4 component of the Earth Commission. And I think that these kinds of debates are absolutely essential for trying to solve problems. So it's not just that we should only agree with each other, but we should disagree, because in that disagreement, maybe we will get a plurality of possible solutions, but also maybe we will come to understanding the more difficult issues which Diana put on the table, which is the deep underlying differences in values and approaches that currently underlies our global system. I think those are the 2 most important as far as I'm concerned. Maybe there's a third.
Well, I think the second point that Joyeeta made about debate and argument is really important. And it's not just in conversations between us and groups like the Global Challenges Foundation. One of the things I both enjoy and takes a lot of time are the debates within the Earth Commission, because we have scientists and social scientists. We have people who care more about ecosystems than people. I mean, that's a little bit of a caricature, but there are really important debates that we hope we can work with GCF on. I'll just give you 2 examples. One is ecologists have made proposals to set aside large areas of the planet in order to protect biodiversity and ecosystems, but that can have implications for indigenous people, for food production. So there's a contradiction there. And a second would be, a lot of people propose carbon markets, things like carbon offsets, as a way to solve the climate problem. And we're quite skeptical about the ability of those markets to work in a way that is just.
And effective.
Yeah.
So certainly researching these topics will lead to a lot of debate, and it's good that we're approaching it in a good manner, rational manner, to find good results. And looking forward, what opportunities do you see coming out of the Earth Commission and the collaboration in the future?
So in the first half of this year, we're really hoping to address some of the key challenges of the Earth Commission. But in the second half of this year, I think we can mature further into really going deep into what kind of institutional changes we need at the global level. And I see that there will be much greater interaction at that point, from that point onwards, with the Global Challenges Foundation to actually work on where do we need to fine tune our institutions and where do we radically need to change our institutions. To give you an example, there is now growing evidence that the concept of GDP may be problematic because it allows us to externalize a number of challenges, social challenges, but also environmental challenges. And so the question is, how do we organize our society in such a way that we prioritize human well being worldwide without getting distracted by the concept of GDP? But we do need a transition period from the world we are in to the world we would like to be in. And I think that's something we really have to debate with each other, because the GDP way of life is so ingrained in every country. In fact, we classify countries on the basis of their GDP. So if you then tell a country you should not go from least developing country to mid-income country, they will be very upset. So we have to really frame this in a very careful manner. We have to debate about this and think. And I think that's going to be one of the more challenging issues. And it deals with what Diana was talking about the deep-rooted values that is there in our system, which drives some of this, both this environmental degradation as well as social inequality.
So for me, moving forward, I think there are a couple of interesting issues. One is how we're going to handle the question of tipping points, which is, are we going to see very rapid changes in the Earth system? But also, are there ways to identify rapid changes in the social system, both as a result of Earth system collapse, but also as a way to respond to these issues? Can we see rapid changes in society that will take us to a just and safe future? I think the other challenge is that going forward is communicating what we're working on. And you have an audience and a set of connections that could help us. And for me, there are points in our work with the Earth Commission where I get very, very depressed. You know, the changes are so great that I sometimes feel they're insurmountable, particularly if we're trying to solve poverty and hunger at the same time. And I think if we can work together to find positive and optimistic measures that engage people. And justice for most of the world is a value, maybe not for some of our leadership or some of our businesses, but justice might help us communicate some of our findings.
Thank you. We are very much looking forward to the results of your research. And thank you also for this interview.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.